Have you noticed something strange about modern life? Almost nothing wants to be bought anymore. Everything wants to be subscribed to. Music, movies, software, cloud storage, fitness apps, even the heated seats in some cars. And that should feel strange, because for most of history, companies tried to sell you products. Now, they want permanent access to your bank account. And that changes everything. Because subscriptions are not just a pricing model, they are an economic system. And in many ways, one of the most profitable systems ever invented. But to understand why, we need to begin with a simple illusion. The illusion of cheap. $9.99 a month. It feels harmless. Smaller than a lunch. Smaller than a mistake. Almost too small to matter. And that is exactly why it works. Because your brain does not treat $10 per month the same way it treats $120 per year, even though they are the same number. One feels trivial. The other feels expensive. That gap is where the trap begins. Behavioral economists call this payment framing. Businesses call it conversion optimization. I call it the doorway. Because once a price feels painless, resistance disappears. And when resistance disappears, recurring revenue begins. And recurring revenue is where the magic happens. Let's say a company sells you a product once. They make one sale. But if they sell you a subscription, they may collect from you for 10 years. That isn't a customer anymore. That is an annuity, a human cash flow stream. And that is why Wall Street loves subscriptions. Predictable revenue, low churn, high lifetime value. It turns unstable businesses into financial machines. Adobe understood this early. Years ago, you bought Photoshop once. Now, you rent it forever. And the company became dramatically more valuable. Not because Photoshop got infinitely better, but because the economics got better. That is a hidden pattern. When a business moves from one-time sales to subscriptions, it often stops behaving like a store and starts behaving like infrastructure. And infrastructure is powerful because people don't casually cancel infrastructure. That is why subscriptions are much harder to escape than they are to enter. Joining takes seconds. Leaving often takes friction. Menus, passwords, retention offers, emotional guilt. All designed because modern subscription systems don't merely sell convenience. They engineer inertia. And inertia pays. But there is something even deeper happening. Subscriptions change how we perceive ownership. You think you own music. You rent access. You think you own software. You rent permission. You think you bought entertainment. You bought a monthly obligation. That is a profound shift. Because ownership creates assets. Subscriptions create dependence. And dependence compounds. Not always financially, sometimes psychologically. There is a reason many people have 6 or 7 subscriptions they barely use. Because once a recurring payment drops below conscious attention, it disappears from mental accounting. And invisible costs are often the most dangerous ones. A coffee feels expensive. A forgotten subscription does not. But over 10 years, that forgotten subscription can quietly become thousands. And this is where the system becomes fascinating. Because subscriptions are not really about $9. They are about scale. One subscriber pays little. 100 million subscribers creates an empire. Netflix understood this. Spotify understood this. Apple understood this. Amazon understood this. And once you see it, you notice something strange. Many of the most powerful companies today are not built around products. They are built around recurring claims on human behavior. That starts sounding less like commerce and more like a toll booth, which should remind you of something. In the last video, we talked about the 5 levels of wealth, and one of them was toll booth wealth, owning the road others must travel. Subscriptions are often digital toll booths. If you need the software, pay. Need the cloud storage? Pay. Need visibility on a platform? Pay. Stop paying? Access disappears. That is not simple pricing. That is controlled dependency.
And controlled dependency can be incredibly lucrative. But there is a paradox. Subscriptions are not evil. Sometimes they lower costs. Sometimes they improve access. Sometimes they genuinely help people. The issue is not the model itself. It is unconscious accumulation. Because systems become dangerous when they operate invisibly. And many subscription systems do. They hide in small numbers. They hide in automation. They hide in convenience. And convenience is often where freedom erodes quietly. That is worth thinking about. Because this pattern goes beyond Netflix. It is moving into everything. Cars, healthcare, education, even physical products. You can now subscribe to razors, to groceries, to clothing, to mattresses. At some point, subscription stops being a business model and starts becoming a logic. And that logic is simple. Convert ownership into recurring rent. Once you see that, modern capitalism looks a little different. And maybe the deeper question becomes, if the most powerful businesses want recurring claims on your income, how should individuals think? Maybe one answer is this: pay recurring costs only for recurring value. That sounds obvious, but it is rare, because many people have recurring payments without recurring benefits. And that is where leakage happens. Not dramatic leaks, silent ones. And silent leaks are what often keep people financially stuck. Not because subscriptions alone make people poor, but because unnoticed systems shape unnoticed behavior. And unnoticed behavior shapes outcomes. That is the theme of this channel. Hidden systems, invisible incentives. The structures beneath ordinary life. Because economics is rarely about numbers alone. It is about the forces quietly shaping your decisions. And once you start seeing those forces, you see them everywhere. Which brings me back to the original question. Why does everything want you subscribed? Because subscriptions do something extraordinary. They turn customers into compounding assets. And compounding assets are how empires are built. Maybe the real question is not whether subscriptions are good or bad, but whether you are using them or they are using you. And that distinction may matter more than it seems. I'm Paper Bag Economics. See you in the next episode.